Hi Sonny, I'm here to talk to you about your ongoing battle with depression. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your depressive symptoms?
No, not at all. What would you like to know?
Well, first off, how long have you been struggling with depression?
I have been struggling with depression for about 3 years. It tends to vary depending on what sort of medication I'm using or the treatment that I have at the time, but it's been about 3 years now.
Okay, well, can you tell us how your depressive symptoms have affected your life?
Definitely. I think that the major issue is the fatigue and lack of motivation that I feel continually. It makes it very difficult to exercise, to spend time with my friends, to be in social situations that require any energy at all, really. And that's definitely had the biggest impact on my life and was the first thing that I really struggled with and was the reason that I started seeking treatment to begin with. So that would definitely be one. Also, just the fear of putting myself in new situations. I often socially isolate myself and kind of have become a bit of a recluse.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Sonny. We've seen that you recently suffered from a heart attack. Do you think that your depression may have been a factor that influenced your heart problems?
Definitely. I think that's absolutely a possibility. Particularly, there's a lot of psychological and biological factors that my depression has caused that I think very easily could have influenced my cardiovascular issues.
So how exactly does depression cause cardiovascular disease? As this diagram shows, there's a bit of a cyclical dilemma occurring. Depression causes certain behavioral changes that in turn create physical changes in the body. Biological factors such as inflammation, heart rate variability, and the presence of too many catecholamines can prevent the proper functioning of the heart. The physical manifestation of cardiovascular disease can in turn cause a great deal of emotional distress that can trigger the onset of depression. One behavioral consequence of depression is physical inactivity.
Depression affects how you feel, think, and behave, and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. You may have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, and depression may make you feel as if life isn't worth living. Therefore, it can become increasingly difficult to participate in activities of daily living, such as incorporating exercise into a health-promoting lifestyle.
Depression also tends to lead to medication non-adherence. People who are depressed are less likely to adhere to medications for their chronic health problems than patients who are not depressed, putting them at risk of poor health, according to a new Rand Corporation study. Researchers found that depressed patients across a wide array of chronic illnesses, such as diabetes and heart disease, had 76% greater odds of being non-adherent with their medications compared to patients who were not depressed.
New research has suggested that there may be something in cigarette smoke that has antidepressant properties, which explain why cigarette smoking is much more common among depressed patients. Smoking, therefore, may be a way for depressed individuals to self-medicate depressive symptoms. Cigarette smoking is the leading behavioral risk factor for CVD in the United States and a major contribution to deaths.
What about biological factors?
Researchers have specifically spent a great deal of time examining the relationship between inflammation and cardiovascular disease. The University of Maryland School of Medicine performed a study on 880 adults and found that people who are depressed are more likely to suffer from stiffening of the heart, also called fibrosis. This study showed that depressed adults typically have higher levels of C-reactive protein, which is linked to inflammation of the heart and blood vessels. Inflammation increases the production of collagen, which is the fibrous protein that make up your skin, bones, tendons, and muscles. The problem is that too much collagen stiffens the heart and can cause fibrosis. Another study at Ohio State University has pinpointed a second protein that may help to explain the link between depression and heart attacks. This one is called tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNF alpha, and it's a member of the protein family called cytokines. Cytokines are manufactured by your white blood cells and stimulate the immune system to help fight injury and infection. However, in doing so, it also causes inflammation, which we've already learned is bad for the heart. People that suffer heart failure typically have high levels of TNF alpha.
Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. It affects about 1 in 3 people, and one of the major risk factors, which often goes unnoticed, is depression. So now that you've experienced firsthand depression as a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, would you be willing to take us through step by step on the ways you addressed your depression in order to decrease your chances of future cardiac problems?
Yeah, definitely. I think I first had to just recognize that I was having depressive symptoms and just sort of recognize that within myself. And then I reached out to family and friends. I started exercising more, which was really helpful for both my body and my mind. I took antidepressants and started talking to a psychiatrist, and I think all of those methods combined really helped me address my depression, which in turn I hope will help me decrease my odds of having any future cardiac problems.
Thank you for sharing with us, Sonny.
Yeah, no problem.